This is about my 8th or 9th live session, and trying to pick a topic tonight, I really wanted to pick something that might help you across the board, because I think sometimes we get into the groove like, okay, I got to get my English done, and it's only for English that I do these things, or only for math, or only for history. But in English, we're really helping you build skills that should help you in every single class that you're doing, because in history, you're going to have to write responses and write papers and maybe use an outline, depending on the class. I get that. But you'll have to do some research. I know that for sure in history, and make presentations and those kinds of things. Almost all of our classes in one form or another ask you to write a written response. And I know it myself as a teacher, sometimes I get responses that I can tell that I'm pretty sure the student understands what they're saying, but I can't give them full points because they're not being thorough enough. So I thought that was a great topic, was kind of demonstrating ways, or demonstrating what a paragraph should look like, versus maybe students who just very basically quickly answer the question. Because the whole goal is to maximize your grade. I don't like giving, I can tell, or I think I can tell that a student knows what they're talking about, but because they're not expressing themselves well, or explaining would be a better way, deep enough or thorough enough, I can't give them full points, and I don't want students missing out on those points and getting the highest grade they possibly can. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a couple of an example, and they're all examples. They're my examples though. I didn't want to pull up an example of student work without permission. And so I wrote up samples, but they are using prompts that are actually in the lesson. So you're going to get to see some stuff from 9th grade and some stuff from 10th grade. And then we'll start with a simple example and how to elaborate, because really this is about revising and taking your simple, clean, straight answer that really isn't explaining, and then explaining yourself a little bit better to maximize your points. But what that does is, by trying to maximize your points through thorough explanation, what you're going to end up doing is write really awesome and stellar paragraphs. And that's, to me, paragraph writing isn't just about writing a paragraph and hitting that format and checking the box. I tell my students all the time, if you can write a solid paragraph, you're able to prove your point. And so even if you're just talking to someone else, the organization of a paragraph is organized thought. And so you'll be able to discuss more thoroughly and better, or write in other classes and all that. You'll be able to write better, but you'll also be able to kind of group your ideas in a way and be detailed enough to prove your point when you're speaking as well. So it's a great way to think about, okay, paragraphs, they just collectively, or they're just a visual of my thoughts. They're just a physical representation of my thoughts. So I hope this helps. And I know I just talked really, really fast, but I'm trying to get it all in there. So, all right. And the other thing, Tony, is if you do have questions, I have spots in here that I'm going to stop, and you can either ask questions from the material, or you can ask questions from another assignment if you have them, okay? So first thing I'm going to ask you, we will do the one on the left and the one on the right. Which one do you think is better? Now, please don't just assume one is better based on the size. I know it's a little bit easier to do that, but I'm going to read them to you, and I would like you to be able to tell me which one you think is better and why. So the one on the left, speaking passionately about the need for equality, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. addresses the need for change in his infamous "I Have a Dream" speech. Dr. King repeatedly compares the life of African Americans of the 1960s to the lives of African Americans at the time of the Civil War. He says they are still crippled by segregation and struggling in poverty while living in a land of prosperity. These conditions have made African Americans an exile in their own land. King ends with the realization we should all have. These are shameful conditions. So that's one. And then the second one, the one on the right, is things are still bad for African Americans. They live in poverty and are not part of their community. So I would like you, if you can, to tell me which one you think is better and give me a reason why. Oh, you can't see the second one? Let me see. Can you not see the left side of my screen where it says things are still bad? I'm gonna box it for you really quick, okay? Or square it, circle it. I circled it. Can you see where the circle is? Oh, I saw that. Okay, so the first one is more detailed. You're correct. I'm going to underline a couple of the details, and then I want to see if you can notice at least something similar about the details, okay? We'll still use red for this. Let's see here. They all don't have something on them, but 2 or 3 of the 4 things that I underlined have these things. Can you tell me what they are? And if you can tell me, what do you think they mean? Do you see the blue marks up here? Either on this one, they're also on this one, what I'm circling. Those are quotation marks. And do you know what, when we put something in quotation marks, do you know what that means when we're summarizing something? All right. Can you tell me what it means, Tony? So, perfect. Okay. Unless my computer kind of keeps catching. So when someone has said something or another person is just re-saying it, correct. And it's hard here, which is what I was about to say, is you don't get to see what I'm summarizing. This is a summary of Martin Luther King's I Have It, or a portion of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. And so, but the things that have quotation marks around them, except for this piece, and I'll explain this in a minute, are direct quotes from what he said. What I want you to note is that I didn't go in and just copy the whole thing and plunk it in there, because then I'm mostly using the other person's words. I just picked the words I felt were the strongest words and had the strongest impact from that area or from that section of the speech so that I could summarize it. So, and I think it shows, if I was telling you that this is a summary, which it is a summary in, I believe it's in 9th grade semester 1, then these direct quotes, by just using little pieces of it, I'm pulling out some of the really, really important details that he's saying and some of the really great language he's choosing to use. But I'm making it and like piecing it together in a way to help me summarize it correctly. And so you want, students tend to do more of what's in the red circle, if you can still see it. This red circle, it's not incorrect. And that's the thing is students, you guys are, and I don't want to say you because I don't want to directly speak to your assignment, but like what I'm seeing is students are correct. They're not wrong, because if you read this, yes, technically if you reread this speech, what's in the red circle is correct. It's very general, it's not detailed enough, but it still tells me what that piece was about. So it is like part way to a good summary, but it needs to be added to, okay? And the things that need to be added to, I'm going to clear my screen real quick of all my drawings and move forward, okay? So what needs to be added to is so that's a summary, and what we need to add to is our details, and we need to add a really strong topic sentence. So I'm going to jump a couple slides forward to do this really quick. You've been taught to do summaries in 2 steps. Now, summaries are really, really important to learn. And the reason they're really important to learn these steps and to really kind of master it is because you're asked to summarize a ton. To just let you in on a secret, teachers do that because it's a really good learning tool. Here's some new information. Now tell it to me kind of using your own words, but supporting it. And so we can see if you understood it, is essentially all a summary does. So when we give you new information and we ask you to summarize it, you have to understand it well enough to put it in your own words. And so that's the point of a summary. And because it's a great teaching tool, you are going to see this in science and math and history and music and art. It doesn't matter what your subject is. I promise summaries are going to be there. So if you can master this now in your English courses, you're going to have a much easier time in a lot of your other classes, and you're going to maximize your points. So there's 2 basic steps, but I think by trying to simplify it so much, students think they don't have to do as much as that my example showed. 1, you need to write a topic sentence. And in this topic sentence, you absolutely have to include a couple things. In the topic sentence, I'm going to move this down a little bit here. You need to include, let me change my color. You need to include author, title of the text, title, and general statement about what's going on, about the piece or about the text, okay? Just so you know that. Sometimes you want to use really good or strong. I know that the video in your lessons tell you to use a strong verb. In here, I think I just said that King discusses, but I actually had that little introductory phrase that is very strong. So I felt that was a good compromise. The thing that students they'll forget to write the topic or their topic sentence because I think you just assume, well, the teacher's asking me, she knows or he knows what the title is and who the author is. But we also want you preparing to summarize for people who might not know what that piece is about. So it's really good. And then it practices topic sentences and good paragraph structure. So always in your titles or in your summaries, include a topic sentence that includes the title, author, and a statement about what the whole piece is about. The trick is inside our, when we get to this part, students a lot of times will forget their topic sentence and they just jump down to number 2, which is that supporting details. and they think they can just give a really big generalization. So think of Google Maps and you're like, 15,000 feet in the air and you're not really seeing much. You might get to see like half your state with maybe a road through it, right, on the Google map. But you're trying to find a house and you're at like the 20-foot Google map view. That's what you want to get closer to the details. So don't generalize, okay? Be specific. And here's the part that I think students don't realize. Include at least 3 specific details. Okay? At least 3. You really, 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 really want to make sure that you have enough information that I thoroughly understood that piece. And it doesn't just mean kind of like what the topic is, but how they're talking about it and how they feel about it, because that's really important when you're summarizing. Okay, so at least 3 pieces. So let's go back. Sadly, I have to clear all my drawings again. I am going to go back to the slide we just started on, okay? I gotta clear this, so. Okay, so then let's go back to this one. This one, speaking passionately about the need for equality. So that's what it's about. I have my author, I have what he's doing, he's addressing the need for change, and this is the title. There should have been a period right there. Then I have my 3 details. I use the crippled by segregation, exile in their lone land, and they're struggling in poverty. Okay? But then I also end, because I like the idea of that what King was doing was bringing up and reminding Americans in the 1960s, when things should have been better, that African Americans were still living in these shameful conditions. And so he says that at the end, and I thought that was a very great way. I used mostly my own words, still summarizing, but I still used a quote to help show that. This is a strong paragraph. And I know it's really big, and sometimes students are intimidated by seeing the teacher portion, but I also think it helps to see what a really strong paragraph looks like, so you know your end game, what you're trying to get to versus where you're at. And I know as a teacher, if I see growth, lots of higher grades, because and you're trying to do what you're asked to do. So working towards adding these details. So I'm going to demonstrate it for you, okay? And again, the thing about summaries are they're a basic assignment, but they're asked in many, many ways with many subjects. So if you master this, your grades across the board could go up, okay? So here is another assignment that is in, this one I believe is in English 10. And it asks you to write a summary on the below paragraph, okay? You may have already read this as part of, there was another part earlier in the lesson, but I literally copied this from one of the lessons. Beginning in May 1942, the War Department transferred the Japanese Americans to 10 relocation authority relocation centers. Central Utah, Colorado River, the Gila River, Granada, Heart Mountain, Jerome, Manzanar, Minidoka, Rower, I think, and Tule Lake. And it gives you the states for those as well, but and then under guard and surrounded by barbed wire fences, the internees lived in cramped barracks, sharing communal toilets, showers, and mess halls. Privacy was non-existent. The relocation centers mirrored small communities with churches, hospitals, libraries, post offices, and schools. The WRA allowed some internees to leave for temporary seasonal agricultural work, and others attended college, served in the military, or obtained, or obtained outside employment. Some of the internees remained in the oh, that was interesting. I don't know. I think that is my Google Voice for class. I've never had that happen. I'm sorry, Tony. because my phone started ringing and then it went off on my computer. I apologize for that. Okay, we'll see what happens. I apologize. That is very different. So this is the piece. It's called Japanese Internment Camp Locations by Rebecca K. Sharp. Okay, so one of the things we're going to need to do is kind of come up with a topic sentence. And so I actually like to do that first because it gets me the general, like statement of what I'm trying to prove. So I'm going to put in here, up above here, I would do this like on paper normally, but I want you to be able to see this. So I'm going to put a little box up here and let's see here. I'm just going to go in Japanese internment camp locations by, just get this out of the way, right at across the top by Rebecca K. Sharp, comma, the reader learns about where internment, actually I'm going to do this. The reader learns about, and I like doing this for students. I did not write this at all until right now so that you can see my thought process, and I'm literally talking out loud as exactly what I'm thinking, because I think it's important to see how I would go about successfully summarizing this, because I think a lot of times we don't know where to start. So I read it. I'm going to write a statement. I might go back and change my topic sentence, but I'm going to write my topic sentence first, trying to just get my general statement about what I think it's about. And I'm making sure to include my author and title. The reader learns about internment camps. Sharp focuses on the location and conditions of the camps. I think that's those are two big things, right? So I'm going to do this so we can see this a little bit better, hopefully. I'm going to go over the top of my title. I think we're okay there. No, we're not. Okay, let me move this down. I apologize. It might not let me move it now. Great. Okay. I didn't realize I could not do that. Let's see. There we go. Okay. I'm going to move it over here so we can still see it without interrupting what I'm doing. Some of this is, I'm trying to do some new things on here than normal. Okay, so the next thing that I do after I have my topic sentence is I'm going to go through, I need to be able to show what I think this is about. So the two things I think that I need to focus on is obviously location, right? So we're going to do, we have to focus on location and we have to focus on conditions. Okay, so the locations are right here. And I would just LOC. This is what I would write down. So those are all my locations. And then the other conditions, barbed wire fences remind me of prison. So I'm going to keep, and barracks. And because they go together, I'm going to draw an arrow. And then I'm not going to do it here because I've got messy like computer screen handwriting because I'm really bad trying to write with a mouse. But I would write like a prison by these two lines. So that reminds me of what I want to say about him, because she's purposely using, in my opinion, those images to develop the idea of a prison system or something like a prison. Communal toilets, there's absolutely no privacy, was non-existent. Each family, we're used to just living in homes with them, but each family, there is no privacy. the entire community goes, has the same restroom, same toilet, same showers, and they share. Though they did have some churches, hospital, libraries, and that things, so that is a positive. But they weren't allowed to leave, except for some had temporary seasonal work. And others did attend college or the military. But wow, the relocation, so they remained here until 1946. I know my lines are messed up, so I'm going to switch back to text. Yeah, we're going to try that here just because I think it'll be easier if I'm trying to do it on the screen instead of switch over to my, I was going to switch over to Word. So now I want to at least have 2 to 3 sentences, probably more like 3. So Sharp establishes the locations by listing the name and state of all 10 camps. These camps were spread throughout the interior of the United States. So no, I didn't use any quotes here. All I did was paraphrase, because this is a lot of stuff, this huge location where I put the brackets. So we are still trying to summarize and do it shortly. But I think I got generally what this is, right? That we are trying to, that she tells us where and all of that. Okay. The next one is, so after we have the location, conditions at these camps were very prison-like. I'm using my own term there because they had barbed wire, fences, the internees lived in cramped barracks, sharing communal toilets, showers, and mess halls. Sharp, gee, many yimers, I can't type. Sharp, nope, where I was going to try to do the privacy was non-existent thing, but I do need the quotation marks there. So then we have that, and that gets us some of the conditions, and then there are several things, though there were services like churches and hospitals, most people could not leave the camps unless it was to serve the military or for work. Okay, and I think if I joined these two together, the blue and the red, we have a pretty good paragraph. I have seen students write 2 sentences, 1 sentences. Internment camps happened in the World War II. And yes, that's true. And yes, they're taking ideas from other work that we've read and their knowledge, but it doesn't really summarize this piece. Or they'll just say conditions in internment camps were not great, even though people could leave for work. So we want to make sure we have a strong topic sentence and that we spend several sentences talking about it, and that at least 1 quote. Or this isn't actually my normal preferred way. I like it the original way where I take out just a couple words in 3 or 4 places from the text. But I do think this works really well for what's going on in this paragraph. Okay. Are we good? Do you need any help, Tony? Or do you understand this? Okay. I hope I wasn't going too fast, Tony, for the notes. Oh, you're okay. I'm really happy to be that you're writing notes, and I hope this is helping. There is no reason to be worried about that. I'm really glad that you were taking some notes. Did you have any questions? Awesome. Okay. I actually think that do you have any questions is coming up in just a second because I like to pause during assignment or the slideshow and see if you have. Oh, so here would be a very basic example. I guess I need to know what all my slides are, don't I? Because I kind of jumped in there. I knew what I wanted to do, but I broke my presentation in several slides. So this is what I normally see where I was telling you I don't see a ton of information all the time. There were camps all over the country. Conditions were not great, even though some did leave the camps until they closed in 1946. You can see that they're right, but it's not going to maximize your grade, right? So if I saw this, they'd probably get a 60, maybe a 70% on their score. Which if they would add a topic sentence and add a quote or a couple little quotes in here, then they'd have a heck of a lot more points. So with very little, a little bit more effort or a little bit know-how. I don't think it's an effort here. They did it correct. They summarized, but it was too briefly, right? And it's not as strong as it should be. So what you want to make sure you're doing then is those things we talked about. Write a strong topic sentence and make sure to provide evidence from the actual text by putting those things in those quotation marks. So there's that part. Let me move. So a reminder of those two-step summaries. And in your notes, I would make sure you write this down. Write your topic sentence and make sure that you have your author, topic, and a statement about what the whole thing is about. And then you're going to want to write those supporting details, and you need to maybe circle in big, bold letters somewhere, star it. You want about 3 things that you're pulling from the piece. You can direct quote them by putting quotation marks around them, or you can paraphrase them. We do like to see your words in there more than theirs, though, just so you're aware. That's what teachers are looking for, is your words, so you can paraphrase, use a small quote to help prove it, but you definitely want to refer back to your work, okay? Okay, so this was my pause for questions, but do you have any questions right now that you want to talk about from any of your other classes? Awesome. Can you tell me what it is or what your question is? Oh, you missed your science class today. Did you miss, like as in, here, I'm going to text you because this is being recorded. So I think the science had a live session. Isn't that the other live session that happened today? Okay, I think you're talking about the live session today, is my guess. Okay. So I'm going to answer this all. The live sessions are optional. They're here to help you when you need help with an assignment or a topic, or just to kind of get you face-to-face time, if you want to call it that way. I know we're not looking at face-to-face time, but we are sharing an airwave, and so we kind of get to interact way more than we get to sometimes just doing our assignments and getting feedback from the teachers, and then us seeing the assignments of our students. It's really nice to get to talk to you this way. It's as close to a real life class setting that we can get right now. And so it's a great place for you to get help. It's a great place to learn a topic in more detail. And so they are not required. The cool thing is we offer it as an incentive. We want to see students in these live sessions. And so we are giving you incentive. So by sitting here with me, you're going to get a punch card or a punch on your punch card, so to speak, and it will count for your being able to excuse a couple of assignments this month, as long as you make 6 of them. And there's like tons of them going on all the time. We try to have like 5 or 6 a week from different teachers. The other cool part is we have a YouTube channel, the school does, and we post all of these videos onto the YouTube channel. So you could always request from your science teacher, just email her and let her know that you have that you missed it because you weren't sure how to get into it, or whatever occurred, since you're new and just learning how to figure this stuff out. And then she can send you a link to that specific class from this morning if you would like to see it. Okay, so no big deal about missing it. I get you might have wanted to sit in on class, and kudos and commend you for that. But there's no nothing's bad is going to happen because you weren't able to get there, if that makes sense. Okay, all right. So is that your only question so far? Awesome. Okay. So this next component, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this a little bit faster because I always do this and I end up going a little overboard. You know what? I think we only have about 4 more minutes. So I think we might actually call this, we'll do essay paragraphs for my next topic. Are you in an English class, Tony, or did you just see this because it goes out to all of our students? Are you in an English class right now?